Hi, welcome to The Inner Way. I'm your host, Father David Smith. We are going to continue our study of the spiritual classic Unseen Warfare. But before we do that, I just want to again remind everyone, announce to everyone that my novel, The Saint Outside the Gate, has recently been published by St. Innocent Press, and you go there for to purchase a copy of the book. It'll be available on Amazon at some point, but we're selling it through the website at the beginning first. This is about a 6th century saint of the church, but it's not a specific saint. It's a book of fiction where I'm bringing together the lives of several saints from that era. So I think you'll enjoy it. Unseen Warfare is what's on our mind right now, though, and in particular, Chapter 47. We talked about Chapter 47 last week, and I said that I would probably spend at least a couple of weeks on it, and I'm thinking there may even be 3 weeks on this one. The title of Chapter 47 was, "What is Mental or Inner Prayer, and of what kinds can it be?" So this is talking about prayer, that we're not reading prayers, we're not saying prayers that we've memorized or anything like this. We're not talking at all. We're only praying with the mind. And I mentioned about how that has certain advantages to it. When I'm praying and I'm reading, the way I think about it is that when I'm praying and reading, there are 3 sort of players in the game, so to speak. There's me, there's God, but then there's also the text. And the text, I should have done it the other way around, so that the middle one is the text. The text stands between me and God. And I can spend my time concentrating on that text, even when it's a memorized text. I've memorized, Psalm 51, for instance, and if I were to pray Psalm 51, there is still a text there, even though I'm not reading it. And so that can be the focus of my attention rather than God. I'm not thinking about God, but I'm thinking about what I'm reading, what it's saying to me, the illustrations, the concepts, and so on and so forth. That's problematic because when you pray, as I've said before, you have to remember there's always another person in the room. Even when you're by yourself, there's another person in the room, and that's God. And you don't want to ignore that presence, that blessed presence that is with you when you're praying. And so when I'm praying without a text, when I'm praying, without that thing between me and God, then there are 2 things in the room. Now, yes, when I'm praying the Jesus prayer, there is the Jesus prayer. But when I'm praying the Jesus prayer, I have a sense of when my mind starts to wander, when a third thing comes along and tries to get between me and God. I shouldn't say tries to, it's always successful. It's always successful. The mind always wanders during prayer. Thoughts will always come in from the outside, but they become a noticeable mass of distraction when you're not praying with a text, because the distraction of the text can feel like it's a good thing. You're concentrating on what you're reading, and so the distraction isn't as heavy. But when you're praying just you and God, you're speaking to God, and this other thought comes along, it's much more noticeable. It's like you and God alone in the room together, and someone walks in through the door. You put your attention on them briefly, but what you really need to do is say to them, please leave us alone. I'll deal with you later. And so this is why I love mental prayer, and I love this particular chapter of unseen warfare. So I'm going to go to the second paragraph today and maybe read, I might make it through the whole thing, but I want to read it one sentence at a time. It starts like this. There is yet another form of prayer, which is called standing in the presence of God. When the man who prays is wholly concentrated in his heart and inwardly contemplates God as being present to him and within him with corresponding feelings. Now, the sentence goes on from there, but I'm going to stop. So, what you're doing is standing before God. You are not there to pray for anything in particular, but you are there to be in the presence of God. And as you are in the presence of God, you need to keep in mind that God is there. It's, as it says, it is concentrated in his heart and inwardly contemplates God as being present. So it's almost using your imagination. And when you do that, you do engender some feelings. There will be a sense of God being there. Very often in the church fathers, we hear them disparage the idea of feelings. And certainly relying on feelings can give us problems in terms of our prayer life, our spiritual life, our faith, and so on. You don't feel like believing. Yeah. So what? Do you stop believing? No. Even when you don't feel like it, you do it. Even when you don't feel like praying, you pray. You read the scriptures. You don't feel like it, but you do. So the feelings, a friend of mine used to say the feelings are like the caboose on the train. They don't drive the train, but they're there. And they come along, but the driving part of the train is completely different than feelings. Okay, well, what does unseen warfare say are those feelings? He's going to describe some of them. Either of fear of God and the feeling of wonder and awe before his greatness, or of faith and hope, or of love and submission to his will, or of contrition and readiness for any sacrifice. So there are different ways that this manifests itself. I spoke about ACTS as a way of organizing prayer several weeks ago. Adoration, confession, thanksgiving, and supplication. Save that for last. But you begin with adoration, and that's what he's saying here, the feeling of wonder and awe before his greatness. But then there's adoration, confession. Confession is contrition and readiness for any sacrifice, thanksgiving, and then supplication. So these are the things that we heard Saint Basil. He quoted Saint Basil on several weeks ago. These different kinds of or ways of organizing our prayer. To go on, such a state comes when a man becomes deeply immersed in prayer by word, mind, and heart. if a man prays in the right way and for a long time, these states come to him more and more often. And finally, this state can become permanent. So, again, when it comes to silent prayer, I call it noetic prayer. They were calling it here mental or inner prayer in the title of the chapter. When it comes to that, it is not something that is easy to figure out. It doesn't just mean that I'm going to sit there and not say anything but think prayers in my head. It goes beyond that. And so it's something that we need to do. Oh, I've been doing this for many, 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 many years, and I only now am beginning to at least understand it. Mastering it, not even close. Not even close. I still have thoughts that occupy my mind sometimes. And even if I'm really tired, there have been times when I have been praying noetic prayers and I've actually fallen asleep. I hate to say that, but it happens every once in a while. But when this state becomes permanent of being united with God, this is the way unseen warfare continues. Then it is called walking before God and is constant prayer. This was the state of David, who says of himself, I have set the Lord always before me. Because he is at my right hand, I shall not be moved. From Psalm 16, I think. I have set God always before me. This is not a matter of walking around through your day and constantly saying prayers to yourself. This is a matter of saying that you, when you're praying, you are concentrated so much on God's presence and the beauty of that, the great feelings, even when you're confessing sins that you're so frustrated about, even then you have these the feeling of mercy, forgiveness, love that comes from God, and that stays with you throughout the day. I've had many times when I'm sitting at a stoplight and my mind begins to wander into something that I really shouldn't allow it to do, something that's unprofitable or even sinful. And my mind says, whoop, nope, not going to go there. And I begin to say the Jesus prayer. That's when I deliberately say it. I don't deliberately say it all day long. I can't. The way my life is, I can't pray the Jesus prayer continually. Maybe someday, but certainly not at this point. Well, brothers and sisters, here we are. We've finished the second paragraph of chapter 47 in Unseen Warfare. I do want to spend some time specifically on the third paragraph and learn more about, as he calls it, inner or mental prayer. I like to call it noetic prayer. We will look at this again next week, and I hope that you can join us. And until then, God bless you.